and smudge, then she.
Okay. We're good, Jason? You hear me good? Not that I need a mic, but I'm going to use the mic because we're live streaming tonight. So we'll see what happens with this, Jason? We think we're good and we think we're live streaming and we'll hear about it later if we've been successful. So that's why we're using a mic. Well, that's why I'm using a mic and feeling very uncomfortable with it, but with that. Anyway, welcome to tonight and to our community event, and it's nice to see you here. We're going to begin our activities with our drum group from our elementary school. They'll be doing a song. We'll also be smudging the room, and once we're done that, Elder Colette will lead us with a prayer. Oh, miigwech. Okay, boys, you're on. Start it off.
Yeah.
Miigwech, young fellows, thank you. It's always good to start our events off. You put us in a good place and you put our hearts in a good place, and we thank you for always starting our community events off with your drum, your songs. And I want you to remember that one place not too far in our history, this drum and our songs were made illegal in this country. So our drums stopped for a long time. So know that when you drum on our drum, that this will never go away ever again. So for that, young guys, we all say Miigwech. Thank you for carrying on our tradition. On behalf of our community, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Miigwech. Elder Colette, as always, Miigwech for the many years, for the many teachings, for always starting us in prayer and reminding us of what's important and reminding us why we're here. And from all of us here in our community, Miigwech for always being with us and always being willing to share your wisdom and your knowledge. Thank you. Well, we're here for Smart Cities. We all know what Smart Cities is about because we've been around and around and around and around. So tonight's a very special night. We have with us from the Smart Cities team, Alex Long and Jenny Tremblay in the back. So they've been working with us. Alex has been the guy right next to us walking us through this process. We have weekly talks and conversations all the time, and he's been wonderful. And we thank you, Alex, from the bottom of our hearts again for being wonderful and helpful and helping us through this process. Jenny, Miigwech too, you've got some big jobs over there that you're doing, and welcome to our community, and we're glad you're here safe and sound. So for tonight, we got two parts. We're going to spend a little bit time on the proposal, just a very quick overview, and then we're going to hand it off to our education staff to give you an update of some of the things happening actually in the school related to this project. I've said that time and time again, that we're very proud of our education staff, and they're taking this project by the horns and doing some really good, wonderful things with it. So tonight we get to see some of the magic that they're going to be creating. And we'll have a break with some food. And then after that, we're going to watch some Wawa video. So that'll be fun and that'll be great. This is the first time we'll be showing our Wawa video, so we're very happy to do that. So at this moment, I'd like to call Chief Mashano up, and he's going to just give an introduction and talk a little bit of why we're here and vision and all the wonderful things Chief Mashano does.
Oh, bonjour. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and good turnout, really. Where's Rick? Thank you for putting out all the chairs, Rick. I want to thank these young fellas here also. I see them out at a lot of our events, and it's an inspiration, I guess, to a lot of us to see them at the drum and singing their songs. I know how dedicated they are to that drum. Miigwech, guys. Thank you. The Smart Cities proposal, I guess, came about few months back. As everyone knows, we had been talking about STEM learning, technology, and Nishnabemwan. How do we bring back our language? And JP and Joanne and the school staff and Esther and the whole group were working on those Wawa videos as part of the whole language revitalization. And JP also worked with the community and some of you that are sitting here in this room and actually preserving our dialect. So that's now done. JP has worked with our community to do that. So technology, how do we move forward in the technological world? How do we keep up? How do we not get left behind? Because things are moving fast in the technological world. You look at these things. Where were these things 20 years ago? Where were they 30 years ago? We didn't see that around. When I went to college in 1979, 1980, computers were just starting to come out. And you had to code a computer by punching a card. That's how slow and ancient it was. Now you have machines through AI, artificial intelligence, basically doing a lot of coding. So things are moving fast, moving forward. How do we not let our kids get left behind in the technological world? Like I said, the staff were already working on some things and trying to figure out how to do it. One day I was on the computer and I was going through the different ministries and I saw an ad on the computer in regards to smart cities. What in the heck is this all about? So I looked through it and I was struck by what they were trying to put forward here. And I printed that out and I took it to JP and Joanne. And I told them, here, you want to do something big? And they ran with it. They ran with it. And they've developed basically with very little input from me, basically. They've taken it to where it is now. And it's going to go farther, and we're going to, I have no doubts at all that we are going to go all the way with this project. And we are going to have our kids be experts in technology and STEM learning. And I have no doubt that we're also going to use technology to help revitalize our language through some of the things you're going to see here tonight. I'm not going to talk about the Wawa videos. I'll let Joanne and Lisa and the school staff talk about those and how that's going to unfold. But I think what everybody has to try to get in their mind and get into their mindset is that we have to teach our kids in the technological world. We have to get them that one step higher so that when they get into high school and college and university, they have an upper hand. Debbie and I were in Sudbury last week looking at some economic development opportunities, and we were with a group there in Sudbury. And the CEO of this company told us that he has positions for 10 people in the technology field and he can't fill them because there's nobody out there. Just nobody, because the schools are not teaching our kids this stuff. We got to teach them right from elementary school. In fact, I think right from kindergarten to get them into that mindset of computational thinking and computer science and take that on to high school. And we have some ideas about what we're going to do with that. We talked about it when we were in Toronto. So we've got to get our kids thinking in that regards. It may seem like a hard task, but I think once it gets going and the kids start working on it, those kids are going to take to this stuff. You know how quickly they do it. They just need to be given the opportunity. And this is the opportunity we have through the Smart Cities program to get enough funding, basically, to make the dreams come true that we had been talking about in the past. And we need everybody's help, every single last person's help in this community to make sure those dreams come true and we have enough money to put these things in place and have those kids thinking in that technological world and finding jobs, high-paying jobs in that technological world and not get left behind. We wish.
Oh, miigwech, Duncan. So our chief, we're very lucky that our chief has lots of knowledge on a whole lot of great stuff, a lot of good bush stuff, and we know what he's capable of doing in the bush. But this man also comes to the table with engineering, technology, a big vision for our children. And so with that, Duncan, miigwech for sharing that and trusting us with your vision and allowing us to incorporate other things into that. So miigwech, it's an honor to have you as our chief and to have you walk beside us and having been doing so for many, many years. So miigwech, Artie, miigwech, Roy, miigwech, Dan, the chiefs that followed before Duncan, thank you too for your vision. And we hope we're doing and holding on to the same vision that you've walked with. So miigwech. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is to take a little bit of time. I'm going to go through this fairly quick because, like I said, most of us have heard this already. So I'm going to go through this very, very quick. Part of the Smart Cities Challenge required us to identify what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So we have our challenge statement there. I'm not going to read it. I want you to look at the picture of those children. Those are our children. And this is what Smart City is about. It is about these children, and use our children, which you ain't having for a long time though, right? So that's what Smart City is about. So as we go through the night and as we go through this process, we're always reminded of what our elders tell us, to bring our children back to the center. And this proposal, along with all the work we do, brings our children to the center. So this is about them. Okay, what are we wanting to do inside of our Smart Cities Challenge? Here's our vision. Our community will transform our youth into better educated, more employable, better grounded, and more holistically Anishinaabe people. What does that mean? Better educated, more employable. Let's go back to what Duncan said. The world is changing. We live in a global world. It's changing very fast. Technology is changing the face of the earth. Everything inside of how things are done, from jobs to every aspect of life, technology is there. And it's going to be happening at an increasingly faster speed. So better educated, more employable. They need to be ready for the tech world. They need tech stuff. Better grounded and more holistically Anishinaabe. We know all too well, Roy, Tricia, Doris, Sarah Jane. We all know all too well what it feels like to walk on this earth, not knowing who we are, not having our identity, not having our language, walking with shame. The generations that have gone before these young ones know what that feels like, to not know who you are in our own lands, to not have our language, to not have our culture. And we know what that gets filled with. But it's not for them. They know who they are. They were born into a Anishinaabe way of life. Their life is very different from our lives. So this proposal will also look at that. How do we fill our children's essence and spirits with who they are as Anishinaabe people so they can walk on this earth and they could walk anywhere on this earth knowing who they are? So that's what our Smart Cities proposal wants to do. 3 things inside of that proposal. First one, Anishinaabe immersion video. We know immersion. We've been working on language for a long time. So Smart Cities is allowing us to bring our immersion video in here. 2,000 hours creates an understander. So by the time we're done with this, we should have enough video on there. All you got to do is hit play, put your feet up, sit in your gitches, and watch the TV. How easy is that? And you'll be speakers. Second part of that is K-12 STEM curriculum. Duncan talked about that already. I'm not going to speak to that. That's big, that's gigantic, that's new for us. But it's not really new because we have a history in our school system of us grabbing new things, of us embracing new things. And our school staff, even though sometimes this might be fearful for them, they're grabbing it because they know how important this is. And the last part of our proposal is a meetup app because human relationships are important. Going out on the land is important. We can't just keep everything on technology because the day-to-day interactions between all of us is important in making a good smart res. Okay, again, very quickly, inside of our language immersion, 2,000 hours of immersion video. Why 2,000? That's how long a baby listens to the language before they can speak. So they usually listen about 2,000 hours of language. So that's what that'll be. Inside of our video, the content is going to be our Atsokanen. And I want to talk about Louis Goodchild. Inside of his memoirs, he says, we have a way. Our Atsokanen tells us that way. That's a quote by Louis Goodchild. Proddy Goodchild, when we first were doing this, we were over at the Lands building, and he comes and says, Nana Bojo doesn't exist. Your Nana Bojo, your Nana Bojo, your Nana Bojo, your Nana Bojo. So when we have 2 elders making those comments, we should stop and ask ourselves, what is that Atsokanen and why are they saying those things? So our sacred stories, we're reconstructing those. That's a big job, but we reconstructed our language so we can do this too. So we have some wonderful Atsokanen from the 59 speakers, Rocco, Clara, Matilda, Camille. So we have some stories. We're doing that. And then overdubbed Wawa. JP will be taking the girls' Wawa, putting audio over there. And just know that we're able to do this because of the work done in our language revitalization. So all of you who worked on that project, miigwech, we wouldn't be here without you. K-12 STEM, science, tech, engineering, and math. We already have a science program and a math program, and they're kick-ass, and oops, beep, 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 beep. Joanne has to beep. So we already do good stuff in there, and we thank our education staff and our teaching staff for always pushing the limits and trying to do better and trying to make really good stuff for you. Beep. Okay, like Duncan said, the T and the E in schools, not only in our schools, in Marathon, across the province, ain't really doing too much in the T and the E. So even after we've gone and done some research, we've come back and found that there really ain't nothing too much out there anywhere. So everyone's in the same boat as us. We got a nice little advantage because we could look and say, hey, what are we going to do about this? So like we said before, we don't want our kids to be consumers of technology. We don't want that. We want them to go inside of the technology. We want them to go inside and build. So we've picked code.org, and I'm not going to go into this because the next presentation will speak a little bit about this, but we really wanted to do an extensive amount of work building a skill set, building resources so our kids can learn technology, engineering. We want to look at electrical and computer engineering, So when I first presented this on engineering, there was actually an engineering person in the room, and I didn't know, so I got caught on all my BS. So I'm not going to BS and pretend I know anything on this, just in case there's an engineer here. I get caught again. Okay, so 4 areas, and we're not concerned about these 4 areas as isolated pieces. We're concerned about the relationships that exist between them. They can't stand in isolation. They're independent. They're not independent. They're related. So you can't have engineering without technology, without math, without physics, without science, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about relationships. It's about interdependencies. Does that not sound familiar to us? That's what our culture is about, relationships, interdependencies. Everything's dependent on each other. There's no one thing that exists in isolation. That's our philosophy as Anishinaabe people. It's the same thing applied here. It's about the relationships. So when we teach STEM, we want to look at the relationships. Okay, the third part of our proposal is a meetup app. So again, real life connections, increased relationships on our traditional territory. We're a place-based people. So our territory, our land, our experiences from our territory is really important to this. So if you just go off to BC, find another app. When you come home, use this one. So that's what it is. How do we hook these young boys up with Roy, with Doris, with Patricia, or these young girls? This app will help with that. So if you go to Dead Horse or wherever you want to go, we hook you up. Part of Smart Cities requires us to share this information to the world, so that's a really wonderful thing. It really is. A lot of our First Nation communities have the same problems as us. We're very fortunate that we have a good team. We have a caring community who stands up, and we've done some really remarkable things, and that is in our way, again, to share. So Smart Cities is making us share, but that's okay because that's how we are as a people. So what we're going to do here, Bictagong X, we've not talked about this too much because we don't want to make things bigger than what it is. Bictagong X is going to be an online platform. All of these 4 things will be sitting on Bictagong X. So no matter where you are in the world, you can access this information that's going to be freely available in there. Besides the smart cities, this is a conversation for us to have in addition to, and I don't want to complicate things, but I want you to think about it because we'll come back to you. Bictagong X, that is our community out in the clouds or wherever it is. What does that mean? What does that mean to your niece Donna who lives in London? What does that mean to your young daughter who's going to go to school at Western? What does that mean when you're never going to move to Jamaica? So our people, a lot of our people live off reserve. A lot of our kids will be going to school off to reserve. So Bictagong X, what does that mean for us as a community who's spread out across the world? How do we stay connected as a community? How do we ensure that Bictagong remains strong? So that question on Bictagong X, keep it back in your mind because we're coming to you. What should every band member of our community know? And we're going to use Bictagong X to put it in there, whether it's history. We got tons of wonderful information from our land claim process. So so what can sit on Bictagong X? So think about that for later. So that's our proposal in a nutshell. I'm going to ask Amy and Lisa to come up now, and they're going to talk to you about some of the more wonderful, exciting things happening in the school. And so like I said, our school staff has been working very hard and wanting to embrace this. And the also really important piece that I want to share that I think is really important with these ladies is they acknowledge their limitations. they openly said, we don't know T and we don't know E. However, we know that T and E is important to our kids, and we will do whatever we need to do to take a look at how do we bring the T and E back into the classroom when we don't know T and E. So they're working wonderfully and doing really good things and grabbing onto their fears and going forward, and they're ready. So I will be quiet.
Bonjour, Ziwanekwe Dishnakaz, Makodo Dame. For those visiting or those streaming live and you don't know my position in the community, I'm the education director and been involved in education for the past 19 years. It's quite an exciting time. Usually when Joanne or Duncan or someone comes to me with this idea, I know it's going to be lots of work. So coming a few months ago and they said, yay, we have this challenge, and all of a sudden we were full-blown into meetings and challenges and getting into the interesting parts of it. So it's been a little bit of a roller coaster for the past few months. So in order to talk about how this relates to education in the community, I want to backtrack a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about our local curriculum and how it came to be and where we're at in that. So when we talk about success in students, what it really came down to when the more we dove into developing our own curriculum, it was really about a sense of belonging and identity. And if you wanted to go back into the historical studies of psychologists and whatnot, we took a look at, obviously, Maslow's hierarchy of learning and basically what it's saying is it's really solidifying the things we knew all along as Anishinaabe, as people of our nation, and that in a Western sense, besides having your basic needs being met, you need to have a sense of belonging, you need to have a sense of identity in order to develop that strong self-esteem, and as a result, in order to reach your highest potential. So really it was about, how do we do that? You know, we get it from our home and families. Some of us, we could get it from school, we could get it from community. What are all of these things that make us and our children Anishinaabe? So going through, the work began, and this is the front page of our curriculum document that is set to be finalized within the next 2 months. It started out with a vision and then a mission. And basically, our vision was to have a community of lifelong learners who balance the traditional knowledge, skills, and values of their ancestors with the knowledge and skills needed for the future. And we talk about balance. We talk about the importance of that. And our mission was to work in partnership with parents, with families, with elders, and community to provide meaningful, holistic learning experiences that inspire the identity, pride, and purpose for our students. And we valued our language, our land, our identity, collaboration, generosity, honesty, caring, and respect. So these ideas, developed from these ideas with our parents in leadership, the work began in 2013 with the question, what is it exactly we want our children to learn? And so after many hours of working on Sundays, on evenings, we had a dedicated group of teachers as technical writers. We had an advisory group. And basically, we had draft and edits and all kinds of stuff, and we finally have our what we've kind of organized into 5 main themes that are involved now, that are going to be formally adopted in our local curriculum in our school. And if I could, I'm destined to say these in the language because we had them translated into the language, and it's important to have that in there because it plays such a big piece. One of the first themes is Beme Bejigozak Anunkum Nagom. One is connected to the universe. And if you were to look at what kids would be learning in that theme, it's going to be about the stars, it's going to be about our legends, it's going to be a lot about the scientific knowledge that our people once had and continue to have. Our other theme, Yaoyang Dam, one or they express to each other who they are. So it's an expression. And if you think about that, it could be expressions of music, the arts, drama, dance. So that was another theme that evolved in our curriculum. The other one is Enjuewing Gwendam Dism. We Minawa Jingyang. One takes care of oneself in a manner in order to be healthy. And that is all about the physical body. That's, kids will learn traditional games and health and health-related concepts, those types of things. Another theme that has evolved is Winjiking Windism, is how we survive from the earth. So basically, anything that relates to hunting, fishing, our trapping, our gardening, our harvesting of medicines, that's where that will be found in that theme. And then our last one, Eje Nishnabewing, Eje Widogazing, Minoa and Dwedwing, translates into a manner in which one is being Nishnabé, one's family, and one's relationships to one another. So these were the 5 areas that we took. If anybody remembers being present in the spring of 2013, and we did a head count, and there was 89 people in our community hall, and we had charts of flip paper charts all over the wall posing that question. We then took those and we tried to organize them into what we thought were these themes. And through the curriculum, that is what our intention is to do, is to foster identity and belonging, the inclusion of elders and family, the language, the Anishinaabe practices, ceremonies and rites of passage, our legends, our history and our stories, our traditional knowledge about the earth, and our land-based experiences. And you know, one of the things that we heard, you know, parents, we've heard leadership, when we embarked on this work, the question then became, well, what's going to happen? You know, that doesn't mean we're throwing everything out in terms of standards and in terms of the provincial curriculum that we were following. That remains the same. In fact, we continue to strive for those standards, if not better, in the area of reading, writing, and math. And we know we have to prepare our students for the modern world. What you see up here is something that normally does not get released to the public, as in newspapers, as in, where there's a lot of publicity. We take part in what we call EQAO testing, standardized testing that every provincial school takes part of in Ontario. Our grade 3s and our grade 6s every year. Anyone who's had a child in a provincial system know that around the end of May, our students know it, grade 3 and 6 testing, these tests get sent to us. We have very strict rules on how to administer the tests, and then they get sent back, and then they get marked by someone who is not a part of our staff or a part of our, they're totally separate. They're not even part of a school board or anything like that. We've been doing that. I was one of the first teachers to administer that grade 3 test in my first year of teaching, and we've been doing it now for 18 years. And like I said, we normally don't release these, and it's not because we are not proud of our students, but it's because we have such low numbers. Our students and their privacy and things like that have to be considered. The chart that you see there is the last, since 2013, the last 5 years. These are the math scores of how many of our students, percentage-wise, attain the provincial level or higher. So basically, they're at the levels of the provincial standards, which is in teachers' terms or anyone who's read a report card, level 3 or higher, which is basically where you want our students. So if you could see over the years, from 2013, we are gradually increasing a little bit of dip. These are our grade 6s that have written the test over the years. And the people that that have come to our school, the outside people, the outside consultants that we often network with, really think that our staff and what we have going is basically, you know, second to none, amazing stuff. We have a group of dedicated teachers who continuously ask, how do we get better? How do we get better? What are we gonna do? We work together as a team, a lot of collaboration, and the support of the community and the support of the parents is what makes this such a driving factor in doing our work. So we strive better. We strive to look at improving. And with this Smart Cities Challenge, we've been asked to look at a couple of different things. Obviously, STEM is a huge area. Amy will extend on that more. But one of the things that we're looking at is a different approach to teaching kids. Some of you may have heard about it, some of you may not, but it's called the growth mindset approach. And we're asking ourselves, how can we use this approach with the students? Will this help them be successful in life? And basically, in a nutshell, it was research done by a professor at Stanford University, Carol Dweck, and it challenges the common belief that people think that in order to be smart, you're born that way. But she's done some research, and we're diving into some of the research to say, and what she's saying is that growth mindset was intended to help close achievement gaps, not hide them. If parents want to give their children a gift, the best thing they can do is to teach their children to love challenges, to be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. That way, their children don't have to be slaves of praise, and they will have a lifelong way to build and repair their own confidence. So some of those concepts we're looking at, went and purchased a book, The Growth Mindset Coach. How can they use that? And this is an example of our dedicated staff. They weren't directed to do such thing, but intrigued by what the research was saying, intrigued on how can we use this to make it, to make things better, to have our students more successful. And another area, what does the future of our classroom look like? You know, we're going from a changing age. Again, Duncan mentioned the change in technology. What does it look like for our students? We're not just going to be the consumers of apps, as Joanne had put it. We want our students to be, we want them to be the developers. But how do we bridge it? So Amy's going to talk a little bit about the STEM, what is happening out there right now, and some of the things that she has been working on.
Bonjour. Amy Najishnika is Bitagon Nishnabek. I am fresh off a plane. I spent the last few days in Toronto, and it was actually very humbling because of the fact that I was there for a science conference. So the Science Technology Association of Ontario put on this 3-day conference in which science teachers from all over nationally came to sit in a workshop style just to talk about all the different things that are coming up in science, technology, education, that sort of thing. Now, what surprised me the most about this was the very first day we had an Indigenous speaker talk about how science inquiry was leaning towards that Indigenous knowledge. And as innocent as it was, a lot of it was very questionable because of the fact that we had there's money that's pumped into these big school boards to make Indigenous education become the forefront. But unfortunately, when it gets down to the bare bones of it, the acknowledgement of being on the land was the only thing that was coming up. So, and I would sit there and I would take a look at some of their science units that they would do, and they said, okay, this is how we make this science unit more indigenized. But unfortunately, when you look through it, it was always one question that said, how does this apply to the local First Nation? That was it. So, and as much as I kind of, bit my tongue and sat and, you sit there and you want to jump in on the question, but at the same time, how do we do more? So with the STEM is what we're going to talk about a little bit more here. Joanne mentioned earlier that, yeah, it is science, technology, engineering, math. And we could go on and on and on about all of the different statistics in regards to why we need STEM in our classrooms. Yes, it's new. It's new to us, but science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is not new concepts. Why are we just kind of tuning into it now just as this is brand new education? Well, Duncan mentioned it earlier. Like, the industries are changing. There are millions of dollars that need to go into all of these different industries for people to make the world turn, right? How many different companies are just developing in Canada alone? And why do we need those workers? A lot of the times, too, is that a majority of those workers are males. What is it about technology and engineering that is not grasping our girls? We talk all the time about gender neutrality. Why aren't our girls in those industries making that money as well? So these are obviously just some of the statistics that come up in regards to Canada and Ontario. There's tons. Where can students with that kind of education go? Where are their jobs? Government, gaming, electronics, sales, services, banking, health, web design, development, all these different areas that we need. STEM education allows us to go from that one person to the collaboration to get the end goal. That's the whole basis of this. It's project-based, it's inquiry, it's collaboration. It's not to say that those kids aren't already doing that in class, because our teachers are creative. We'll get our kids together as much as we can. But how do we do something that makes them productive and gives them those skills in the end? Now, the Ontario Ministry of Education already has curriculum for science and math, as well as technology and engineering. But technology and engineering does not occur until high school, and in these 3 fields. So as you can kind of see here, number 1, the computer studies, grade 10 to 12, where's the grade 9s? Technological education for 9s and 10s, as well as 11s and 12s. However, we're talking not just computer tech, we're not talking electrical engineering, we're talking about anything regarding to the trades, nothing specific. But the interesting portion of this is that. When was it last revised? 2008. Does anyone remember 2008? This is the latest curriculum for tech, education, and computer studies. Everyone's got a smartphone now. Out of that lineup, can you imagine can you guess which one of those iPhones came out in 2008? You'd be surprised. Right now, even this diagram itself is outdated. We have iPhone 8 Pluses and X's, and I think there's an XS or something coming out. 2008, an iPhone 3G. I think it's about this small. I think this actually was the first year that these ones did not even have the forward-facing camera. So how do we connect that? What sets this apart is the fact that we're taking all of those awesome things that Lisa just talked about, the things that make our identity, the things that make our local curriculum special, and we're bridging that technology with the Anishinaabe worldview through language, ministry standards, culture and identity, through STEM. Now, I'm going to show you a video. It's about 5 minutes long. And just to kind of give you some context to this video, when Joanne and Lisa came to me with all saying, well, we have to do this project and we need to develop into research and all this bunch of different things, and I needed to see how this project was going to fold out for us. I needed to see on paper, not just the research, not just the idea or the theories. I needed to see how it was going to apply in the classroom. I needed to see what, in real context, what this meant for our kids. So thankfully, I have teachers like Shauna, I have teachers like Katrina, I have teachers like Jen, who were able to say, okay, let's do this. Let's see what this does, right? Our pilot project, number 1, was an electrical engineering program for the grade 7 and 8 classroom. Now, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, you got to learn electrical engineering, I'd be like, whoa. Number 1, I was a BA in English literature. You're going to tell me that I have to teach electrical engineering to grade 7 and 8s? Like, you're crazy. But this is exactly how we're trying to do this. Now, through online education, that teacher now became the facilitator. She worked alongside these students to develop a project, to develop theory, and to put those theories to the test. And in reality, those things made them a little stronger when it came to their own identity, in the idea that they applied it in a survival setting. They made fire. They used the theory of currents, they used the theory of voltage, they used the theory of problem solving. They were put in a situation where they had to create heat. Now, the beginning of this video is a little bit more in context because of the fact that a young girl tells a story about how our culture was given fire. That is how we're bridging this, and that's how we're going to relate it. So I'm hoping the sound works here. see here.
We, we will show the video. She just has to switch a computer. Yeah.
When Nanabush was still young, he said to his grandmother, Nokomis, "Grandmother, we have no fire, and it's cold in here. Let me go get some fire." Nokomis tried to make him forget the idea of getting fire because it was dangerous, but Nanabush insisted. Nanabush knew he had a long journey ahead, so he made a canoe of bark. He took on the shape of a rabbit so he wouldn't be recognized and started east across the large body of water. He knew that there was an old man living on an island who had fire. As Nanabush, in the form of a rabbit, approached the island, it was still dark, and he pulled his canoe ashore and hopped along until he came to the wigwam of the old man. The old man had two daughters who came out of the wigwam and saw the little rabbit all wet and cold. They picked him up and took him inside, setting him down next to the fire to get warm. The girls went about their evening duties while the rabbit sat by the fire. He hopped a little nearer to the fire to try to pick up a coal, but as he moved, the earth shook and disturbed the old man, who was napping in the wigwam. "What was that?" the old man. The daughters said it was nothing, and told him they were only trying to warm up the poor little rabbit they had found. When the girls went back to their work, Rabbit grabbed a burning stick and ran out of the wigwam, going as fast as he could back to the place where he had left his canoe. The girls and the old man dashed out of the wigwam, chasing the rabbit who had stolen the fire. Rabbit reached his canoe safely and pushed off into the water, leaving the old man and his daughters on shore. He paddled as fast as he could toward his grandmother's home. The air rushing past the canoe made the stick burn fiercely, and by the time he reached home, Nokomis could see that his fur was badly burned in several places. He took the burning stick from him and made a fire, and then dressed his wounds so his fur would grow back.
One of the biggest issues with innovation among the teaching world is that the professional development cannot keep up with how quickly technology changes. The industry demand for bigger and brighter technical skills has a strain on the financial burden of schools and boards to properly train their teachers to teach these new skills, sometimes not ever having been trained in them themselves. One of the many benefits of online education is that it allows the students to directly connect with professionals in the industry. Teachers become a facilitator, working and learning beside the student. In all cultures, fire and heat are some of the most basic elements of need. However, from the Anishinaabe perspective, fire was a gift given to us from the Creator. It not only gives us a basic need to survive, but also provides us with a direct link to the spirit world and our ancestors, to which we offer prayers and tobacco to. STEM education and hands-on learning, we're giving the students the chance to put theories to the test. Students in the electrical engineering pilot project were able to learn the basics of electrical engineering and core science expectations while learning how to directly apply these concepts to real-world situations. With B2GON X, our goal is to bridge the concepts of the latest industry standards and needs and maintain our students' sense of identity and culture by applying these standards to land-based education and skills.
And we came back to French Canada and looked at the French Canadian immersion model. So we know what immersion is. Immersion is about showing meaning, showing the context. It's not about focusing on words. So there's a science and a theory behind immersion. We've been doing this for a few years in our community, so we know what that is. 2,000 hours of this, and listening to this, what will we become? Understanders. 12,000 hours, fully proficient speakers. So in our Smart Cities proposal, we are looking to create 2,000 hours of immersion video. Like I said, immersion's not new to us. Back in 2003, 2004, we have 5 individuals who traveled every weekend to Bay Mills Community College, where JP and Barb developed a program to teach first speakers how to pass their language on using the French immersion model. So Irene, Colette, Lambert, Thalma, and Rose. So they traveled to Bay Mills for 2 years to look at this business. We came to the community hall a few years later looking at immersion. So we had 4 Wawa immersion instructors, Debbie, Esther, Stan, and Adele. We started off at Bedauben. We came here, and if you remember at a community event, they did live immersion. We spent time in my kitchen doing stuff on rabbit snaring, I think it was. So mind you, we had lots of underwear to change that day because it was fun. We didn't know what we were doing. So this was years back when we first started, and these 4 individuals stepped forward and wanted to help. So we thought we were going to start our journey. Then we came to a wall because we didn't realize the state of our language. And so we had to step back and we had to reconstruct. So we left Wawa and immersion alone for a while. We went into reconstruction. So we did verb charts, noun declension charts, a dictionary. We picked an orthography. And we spent 4 years. And if you remember way back when we were doing this, Art, Myra, and Cecil were very significant players in doing this revitalization. And then we went to the community and we had 19 people step forward who wanted to come and help. And so that was a really wonderful experience and time for our community. It was a very healing time. And I was very reminded that the work with these 19 people wasn't an academic process. It came from their heart. And we know the history of our people. We know residential schools. We know what this generation of people went through. And this opportunity of reconstructing our language gave them an opportunity to heal. It gave them an opportunity to feel really good that I contributed something to keep our language. So it was a very healing experience. And to you, 19 people, I see many of you here, and many of you are children and grandchildren here. I want you to be very proud of the work you've done. Because without the work, we wouldn't be here, and this wouldn't be an opportunity. So with those 19 people, and with JP, and here you go, with technology. If we did not have technology, we would not have been able to reconstruct our language. So technology has already made an important impact in our lives, and it will continue to do so. So to these 19 people, miigwech, we are building upon your work, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here tonight to even talk about this. And this is why we're here tonight. We're here to celebrate these 2 women, Debbie Croston and Esther Michano. JP's been doing a lot of work with immersion. He's taught many first speakers how to pass their language on. So he's seen many first speakers. And when he came here and he saw these women, and I remember the day they showed up at Bedauben, and he's sitting there and he tells me, he says, wow, these are hams. And I got really mad at him, like, what are you doing calling us chubby and fat and all of that stuff? I didn't know what hams were. I guess they're funny people. The words he always speaks to me when he talks to me, And he gets really choken up because he sees these two wonderful women and what they're capable of and what they're doing and the hard work that and the risks that they're willing to take to put themselves forward so we can save our language. When we first started this, we were at our home one day, and we were sitting in my living room and then having a conversation, and we were like, wow, a grandmother, Debbie, a grandmother, Esther, can actually pass their language on to their grandchildren. When was the last time in this community that we could actually say that a grandmother could pass their language on to their grandchildren? So I just want us to sit with that. That's gigantic and that's big. And so to these women, we're celebrating them tonight. And they've hung out, they hung around because we put them on pause for 4 years because we had to reconstruct the language. So tonight is about them. Tonight is about the risks they're taking. Tonight is about the love they have for our community, the love they have for their language, and their ability to take risks, and they have taken risks. Okay, so this is Debbie's Wawa immersion. The reason we're having to do Wawa is because we don't have first speakers who can do all of this. So we asked ourselves, what can we do? So we're going to do Wawa, overdub it with English, with Anishinaabe Mwin. Marino Sportolakis back in Marathon says, I'm going to put Greek over that. So any language can be put over here, but here's ours with our language. And just know it's JP's voice, but we're going to go to technology because there's so many wonderful things there. We hit a button, and a woman's voice will eventually be on here. So here's our first one, Debbie Crossan.
Hoa, gawin knibigin man, de kinnigegor, kinnigeg. Peter Spock, Zigin kinnigegor. Anin is webziad, wege de gwen. Oh, oganen. Hoa, we meet you this. Miksha, on de tech. We meet you this, on the tech museum. We meet you this, the be eduk, where de, geg pigo, we weep. Ajen mo stone the scare. Hoa, we weep. Gego meet nid zo ked. Nibin again. Bakakun on wish squan them. Bebin again. Meanwhile, mother bin. Wish squan them go back a bedon. Ah, gegago, gi meet this. Ah, me so when them bugadi on me na. Abdek dash, nui gezien de mail, mbe, gezien de megen te, aan dem gedappen aan, wendem we gezien de mee aan. Wendem dash gezien de mail, we gezien bedie swan. Oh, mig omnik, we na giwab mik niet nidzi aan gera, bigish na giwab migo swan.
Oh. Do we know what happened? Do we know what happened in this story? So we could go through step by step what happened. And that's what immersion is. You understand the meaning. The meaning of the story is transferred. That little piece in our brain called the language acquisition device, remember that little cup? That's where language goes in. And if you don't believe me, go check Noam Chomsky out. Good luck reading him because he's hard to read, but nonetheless. So this is our first Wawa. Did we understand what was happening? We understood the story. We know what happened. Why? We don't understand Nishnabemwin. So this is what immersion is. Miigwech Debbie, that was absolutely wonderful. And Miigwech JP, and JP's been able to do this because he acquired, remember JP was adopted and lived in New York City. It wasn't until he was 25 years old where he started his language journey. He taught Barb Nolan, who's a first speaker, how to transfer language to an individual. So we also have that experience. And JP, by working with youth through our verb charts, noun declension charts, and dictionary, is able to come to our language. So I don't know how close that was, pretty close for speakers. Art?
Wingego gjate nongom. Mabmenago ke picho waseamagak. Aquasage wegizis. Migo geget gjaseget wegizis. Niben go geget. Aquasage wegizis. Niben go geget. No magadon, no wenon, wabugonin. Washmedash shiamagat nibing, pijamandaman, no wenon. Geget sago chigajate. Mi shandum we dekagmikin be, we zigen amadaziad, we nikwayan. Tam noagamin geget wen be. Wien gego noagamin. Niben go geget, wien gego jas ge nongom. Geget mi do kagon, we dekagmikin be washme weedekizyan. Gabish wien go wien get en gijis. Ne abn giso skis go kanen, go bis kanen, ne kan go jo bitis. When biskogen tam go giskan. Mi das washme we wendam jik skitoyan, wien wendaman wien basen dekean. Tam, munjene kaning. Mi das kitchene kaning, je jo bides yan. Mi das den gwaning, mi no dam kanang, kash go sektash, go jo bides mustang, mi no en kading. Je kot mi no wasea. Niben go geget. No gis got de pichum jakok nongrum. Giabe bongi de kagamikten beten gum the quen. Kawin gunige basic an kot test non gisigum. Mage basic mawin temagadok guje. Minwa mawin ge we gumionadok.
Esther, Debbie, Miigwech, I know your hard work, and we've waited a long time to show some of our work, and we're very proud of you, and we look forward to 2,000 hours of you. I want to show you 2 more videos. So these are the 2 we have with the language overdub, so you understand what was happening in the story. As long as we can understand that, immersion is happening in our head. There's no grammar, there's no words, there's nothing. So we're following an immersion process. So this is the stuff that's going to sit on Beek2Gong X, and the school and schools or whomever across the world will be able to access this from Beek2Gong X. So I want to show you 2 more videos from these women, and there's no audio over it, but they're just really good. They're one of their first videos they made, so we'd like to share those with you just because they're wonderful.
Action! Go! Go!
Wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Your bullet. Wait. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wawa wawa. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. wah. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah.
So we're going to make 2,000 hours of this and have it on beaktogong.com and online. A good chunk of it's going to be our Otso Kanan, which Vivian Michano, someplace in here, is going to be helping us write once we reconstruct it. One of the biggest points, if you speak to Esther, Debbie, one of the difficult points besides having to do all of that is coming up with the stories. And we really looked at a model where all of us who are not speakers and understanders, there's a room for each of us to help bring back our language. And one of the things that you can do as a community member is to feed them stories, because it's really hard to think about those things on the spot. So it could be any story, your first goal, ride in the bush, making fire on a propane tank. So we really encourage you to think about those stories, just bullet form them, hand them over to Esther, drop them off at the health center, drop them off here in the community. Actually, Esther has a nice app. We're probably going to start some story collecting contests or something like that shortly. So that's how you can help, is to help feed those stories to Esther, help keep the memories in your family alive. So Esther, Debbie, and whoever else becomes immersion instructors can make those stories alive, and we have those in history. So at this point, Debbie, Esther, we also have a pilot project going on, and Corinne and Katrina, just want to wave there, girls. So these are our two teachers from the school. So they're doing Wawa too, and what we're trying to take a look for them, because they're teachers, they're in the school, they know the kids, they know the content, they know their land-based curriculum, they're going to know our Otso Kanan. So they're going to be doing Otso Kanan supported video, and our ladies over here will actually do our Otso Kanan. So if anyone's interested in immersion, I saw Stanley here. Stanley, if you remember, your face was on the first immersion years and years back. So if you want to come out of retirement and maybe come back to help out, you're more than welcome to do that. Anyone else who thinks they can do some immersion video, please come on, because we've got 2,000 hours to make, and these girls would really love some help. So with that, that sums up our Smart Cities proposal. So you've gone to see what the proposal is, what it's starting to look like inside of our school, and what it can be. And all of this is going to be open, and we have to make it open to the world to come and access. So we're doing some really lots of great, incredible things, building on our ancestors, building for the future. And we're taking on some really big goals here, but we've taken on big goals before, and together we've been able to accomplish wonderful, wonderful, great things. So we will be able to do this, and the only way we could do this is together. So miigwech for coming out. Jackie and your crew in the kitchen, thank you. The food was absolutely wonderful. Oh, there she is over there. Good food, Jackie. So with that, miigwech for coming out. Just give these girls, all of these girls, a little hug and love for their work. And if any of you want to do an interview, we have Beaktogong Press here tonight, so take time to talk to any of the Beaktogong Press girls. And miigwech for coming out. Alex and Jenny, thank you for being here with us, and we'll see you in the morning. We got a breakfast here at 8:30, so you can show up, but this time we only booked for X amount of people, so tomorrow will be the day everyone shows up. Okay, so miigwech, thank you tonight, and if you have any questions, we have a survey here for you to fill out. If you have any questions, you can grab any member of our team, and I think we'll be able to answer your questions. So miigwech, and here we go to Smart Cities, and And even if we don't win smart cities, we're still doing this. Plug your ears, don't tell them that.